a result of that, together with the fact that we will likely overspend our snow budget, which is typically the case, what I'd like to do is defer action on CIP one, which is town roads, for $250,000 until the April town meeting. That will provide us with some additional flexibility in the form of free cash, should we need it over the winter months from either severe winter conditions or from a unanticipated cut in state aid, which Mass Municipal says will be likely if question 3 does pass. The other item that's in here that I would suggest that be revised is CIP 7, which is Energy Conservation Improvements, Phase 3. I've identified $92,695 in other available funds, and so I would suggest that that's the number that should be inserted for the Energy Conservation Improvements Phase 3.
Repeat the number?
$92,695. And again, it's an amount that takes into the energy credits and some unused borrowings that we've had on other municipal projects.
As chair, I've raised the issue, Mr. Belliconis, over the perspective of further cuts in state aid and concern over funding snow and ice, and suggested that we withhold the town road money, which more than likely would be spent next summer anyway, until we get to April town meeting. Hopefully, we don't have to use that money for
Well, maybe
other
June
higher
town meeting.
priority items, June town
I
meeting.
don't think you get that quick of action on the legislature's part.
So, Mr. Yule.
Yes, excuse me, Greg? Greg, are you finished?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That town road, CIP 1, was there work to be done on Central Street? Was that included in that?
It is now.
I did, since we're looking at saving some money here, I was looking at CIP 14. I looked at that as a partial fix to a whole program there that needs to be repaired, meaning the entire lot. I think what we're looking at here is just doing an area by the gym to expand some parking there
Yes.
along the driveway. And I think that has gone from a donated amount to a $12,000 cost to a $20,000 cost. And it just made me think that, we have a parking lot back there that's in pretty bad shape as well. And I know we're trying to come up with ideas of planning. And this looks to me like a Band-Aid fix for a much bigger problem, which would include the parking lot in the back, and which is used daily by our employees. And just to fix a small section of it, it doesn't do the whole, justice to the whole job. So I think we either should look at doing, as a capital plan, doing the whole driveway and parking lot, rather than just one little area at the expense of another area.
Well, I think I'd look at it a little differently. First of all, the proposed area is additional parking, and it's in its own little area, and it was for a specific issue to deal with, and that is the high activity at the food pantry, and specifically to accommodate people that are to some degree handicapped or aged to the point where traveling from the back lot is a big problem for them, especially with winter coming. So that, I don't disagree that the back parking lot should be fixed, right? But we wouldn't be redoing this if we were fixing the back parking lot, at least that's my understanding.
Well, we could. I mean, we could incorporate, but again, rather than to do a small portion, expand a certain area, I think that if we took into consideration the employees and the safety obviously then, because that lot is pretty bad back there. There are some holes there. That I think that if we throw it into a capital plan, just like we did with the roof, just like we did.
It already is. It's in the capital plan.
I understand that, but it's only a portion, it's only
No,
20,000.
no. The whole parking lot is in the capital plan. If you read the capital plan that Greg gave us, you'll see in there, if I'm right, if I've read it correctly, there's a big portion of the parking lot being resurfaced in the back, about $90,000, I think is the number, if I remember reading it correctly. So it's already in the plan.
I guess I did not see that.
It's just not gonna get funded under this FY 2011 capital plan. It's in the plan for a future date.
Mr. Vino?
2000.
If I could ask a
2013,
question, Mr.
right.
Chair, because I really know nothing about this, but I heard Mr. Yule mention a $12,000 donation, so is this project 32,000? And if
No,
not, what
no.
happened to the 12?
No.
Mr.
Yeah. This is how this came about. People that run the food pantry have expressed to the town that the use of the food pantry has increased considerably over the last year or so due to the current economic conditions. They approached the town, were willing to solicit donations to enlarge the area adjacent to a gymnasium where people access the food pantry. Because they have, as Mr. Messeri indicated, they have a number of disabled people, a number of elderly people that access and make use of the food pantry. And my understanding, there was someone willing to donate that was willing to donate the $12,000 to the food pantry for that purpose. Personally, I felt as though that if the food pantry was soliciting donations, especially in this current economic time, those monies would be better spent going to stock the food pantry for the increased numbers of folks that are in very hard economic times that need the food to survive. I felt as though the town should fund the paving of that area to increase parking, to make it a safe area for those that find themselves in an unfortunate situation to have to access that food pantry on a regular basis. $12,000 was money well spent if the individuals who were willing to make that donation, that money was spent for food for the food pantry. I think $10,000 or $12,000, $20,000, whatever it is, to pave that area. That's something this community should step up and do. Right? The cash is there, it's a good purpose to use it for. Food pantry can use those donations that would be better suited for the food pantry.
If I could just add.
Mr. Connabell?
Just for your information, the 20,000, the rule of thumb for sidewalk, for parking lots is $2,000 per slot, 10 slots. That's what 20,000 came.
And I just want to finish up where Sean ended. Sandy, I believe it's Kirker, from the food pantry. Kirker. She's going to come in to the town meeting on Monday, and she's just going to give a 5-minute, just a little update on why this is so important. And you're gonna hear her talk about over 160 families right now using that food pantry. It's increased so much over the last 2 years. And like Mr. Messeri said, a lot of the people that are attending or going to the food pantry are elderly or having a difficult time walking. So we need to do this for them. And I don't wanna wrap it up in a larger capital plan project. We need to do this now to help them. The winter's coming, that area is only gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better over the bad months. So I'd like to continue forward as it's written in here in this capital plan, not to try to bring in something, Jeff, that's already slated for 2013, just so you know, if you go back and read it, it is in there, for 2013, to do the whole parking lot.
Mr. Chair, I just want to be clear, I'm
Mr.
not
Vino.
opposed to this. I'm not
I know.
opposed
No,
to this.
you were
at all.
asking a
I just
question.
wanted-
Right.
And I just want to also finish up that the money that was being donated for the parking lot is going to be donated for the food. They're going to
That's
get
what I
the
was gonna
money.
ask. So that 12,000 is gonna be given to the food.
It's actually it was 10,000, and with the person that's gonna give the $10,000, we're gonna generate the other 2,000 through some fundraising. So the 10,000 is going to be delivered this week.
I'm not opposed
For
to
the
it, I was
food.
just, I heard
Mr.
12,000
O'Leary.
donation.
And again, I concur with what Sean and Mike had to say as to the reason why we should be absorbing the costs and doing this here, but not, the food pantry's the immediate issue that's trying to, but there's also a significant amount of use of this building, and those additional parking spaces in that particular location would be extremely helpful for the youth sports that take place in this building several days a week, meetings that are taking place here, so it's just gonna enhance that area right now that's, people are parking up on the lawn and on the curb and all over the place, and
I agree.
it gets muddy, it gets ruddy, so it's a mess. And so it's not just, it's gonna be exclusively for the food pantry, it's gonna be for the use of the facility here itself, and it's something we should be doing anyway. And I concur that, it's nice that someone was willing to step up and make the offer to take care of it. But I think we have an obligation to do it as a community, to do it ourselves. And in addition to that, it's gonna enhance the use of the facility and the parking around here anyway, so.
And I'll just say that one more thing. Even though this is a large sum of money, $10,000 that's being donated is very nice, very generous, but they need a lot of help over there. $10,000 isn't gonna cut it. The holiday's coming. They've never had this many people ever approaching the holidays. So I know times are tough for everybody, but if you can find a way to help out, the transcript does take checks. They do take food donations themselves right there, or you can bring it in here, or you can reach Sandy directly. But even those listening at home, they really do need your help, and you're gonna hear from Sandy on Monday night how difficult things are for people in our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. One other item on here that I had raised, and I see the police chief here, and I had questioned the inventory of police vehicles, both marked and unmarked. There's a request in here for capital expenditures of 2 cruiser replacements and 1 unmarked car. Chief, could you enlighten us on that?
The police department has had a replacement program, probably going back to the early 1970s, where we replace a marked car, it used to be every 2 years. And then with the advent of 3-year warranties and the improvement in manufacturing processes, we extended that out to 3 years, where we, for every new vehicle, we purchase a 3-year warranty. At the end of the 3-year warranty, the typical marked car has about 100,000 actual miles, and the idling time, when it's converted to miles, brings the average up to somewhere over 400,000 miles by the time it's ready to be traded in or sold and replaced with a new marked vehicle. So two of the cruisers, two of the marked cruisers that we are looking to dispose of, they're both 2007 vehicles, but they were put in service in July of 2006. So they're 4 years, 3 months old as we're sitting here talking this evening. One has 370, well, right now has the equivalent of 375,000 miles on it, and the other has the equivalent of 420,000 miles on it. The total cost for major repairs is averaging about $5,000 to $5,300 on those 2 vehicles. It's obvious as they get older, you begin to see major component failures. They're both out of warranty. The Ford Crown Victorias have a historic problem of transmissions letting go, and/or the rear ends, the gears in the rear ends exploding and going in the cruisers. So, and we've had a documented history of what's happening for cars that were kept for a long period of time. In fact, when we were in the old temporary headquarters on Central Street, we had 2 cars that were parked that had blown rear ends. And they sat there for a year as we were waiting for, didn't have the funds to pay for the repairs. They sat there, and it just increased the level of use on the other cars to the point where we were in dire straits moving into a FY09 and had to accelerate the replacement process.
Chief, my question was more, I think Greg had provided us earlier with mileage issues and things like that. My question was related to how many marked cruisers do we own at this point?
We own 9 marked cruisers. One is in the used specifically for animal control. So our uniform division uses 8 marked police vehicles.
And how many crews